You're listening
to the CD Baby DIY
Musician
Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to episode number 135 of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. My name is Kevin Bruner, and joining me for this Roundtable edition is Chris and the Bolt. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, good.
Very good.
Well, I have a little story to share, a little anecdote. Relates to music. It's about music. I just got back from being on a little family vacation, and my dad had brought my sister's old record player down. We were at her house in Southern California. We live up in the Portland, Oregon area. My dad had brought her record player down, and we actually pulled out some records and sat around listening to some albums. It was quite an experience. If you know my family, you would see that as an odd thing that we would sit around listening to records, but it was a very interesting listening experience because it's totally different than, you know, the digital listening experience, and it was very pleasurable, I have to say.
Did everyone actually shut up and pay attention?
Yeah, everyone was just sitting there listening, and she only had like 5 records. It was Police, Synchronicity. There was a remix of Shout by Tears for Fears, because she got all these in the 80s.
Uh-huh.
There was Men at Work, and what was the... Oh, Billy Joel, Glass Houses.
Wow.
So those were ours. The funny thing was I put on the UK remix of Shout by Tears for Fears, and I didn't know it was a 78, and I had it set to 45. And so it was a little bit slower and had these weird vocals. I'm like, this is just how the remix is. And so it was about halfway through we realized I had the speed. So yeah, that's exactly what it was.
So that reminds me of I went down a couple of weeks ago to this place on the Washington coast called the Sou'wester, and they rent out trailers, kind of like a hotel that you can stay in. It's right on the beach, and each one of their trailers is equipped with a record player that has a built-in speaker, and then they have a curated group of records, probably like 10 or 15 records in every trailer. And the person who curates those, I believe, is the same one that owns Mississippi Records. So they're basically like these weird, obscure, like old blues and folk and African music that you can just put on these dainty little record players and play in your trailer. And it's just such an amazing experience. Really different than almost any other sort of musical experience I can think of.
Yeah, the one thing that I liked, that I particularly noticed, is the one thing that irritates me about listening to music with other people in the digital era, and this started with CDs because I had a friend in college who would always do this, is when you're listening in the car and people go, oh, you got to check this out, and then they keep skipping after 30 seconds of hearing a track. I'm like, are you going to let me listen to it, or are we going to just skip through this album?
Yeah, a little tougher to do on vinyl.
Yeah, I was on a road trip with someone here at CD Baby recently, and they're like, oh, you got to check this out. And I'm like, are you going to let me hear it, or are we just going to keep skipping songs? Vinyl, you can't do that. You got to sit and listen, and it's kind of nice.
Well, you know, artists know that, so they actually really only care about the first 30 seconds of songs. Then after that, it's all filler anyways.
Yeah, that's right. You can just download royalty-free music to fill out the second 2.5 minutes of your music. So anyway, it was a fun experience. It was, I think I'm going to get a record player now. Totally different, and it brought back some of the joys of listening to music. So we've got lots to talk about today, some good discussion. We're going to start off with some news. Then we've got a discussion that was a hot topic on the DIY Musician blog about an artist image. And then we have some of your phone calls and emails to share on the show. So let's get started with some news.
CD Baby.
CD Baby. Music. News.
So here are the headlines that we're going to discuss this week. Artists are extremely upset about recent changes to SoundCloud, especially to their iPhone app. SoundCloud released a new version of their iPhone app that focuses on the user listening experience. The updated app completely removes the ability to record and upload tracks to SoundCloud, plus many other creator features have been removed. The iPhone app centers around two things: the music feed, displaying tracks from followed artists, and trending tracks in various genres. SoundCloud's co-founder and CTO Eric Walforce, I'm sorry I messed up his last name, Eric W., we'll call him Eric W., has also told various outlets that SoundCloud is considering a new payout approach. He said that accounts with millions of followers and listeners can expect some type of future monetization. He also says it will seamlessly fit into their user experience, but he can't go into detail about it now. I have to say, I was angry with a capital A when I updated my app and they removed all those creative features.
I feel like this just smacks of Quickster to me. I feel like, remember when Netflix tried to like divide their services into the people who wanted to get the DVDs in the mail, and then the people who just wanted to stream online, and then everybody flipped out and they lost like millions of customers. I feel like
then they got them all back.
They got them all back, but they had to fix the problem. They put the two pieces back together, and I think that you don't just alienate a huge amount of your users without repercussions, and I feel like it's a real dangerous move for them.
Well, the thing that made me mad is SoundCloud has always been built on creators. And I know there's been lots of rumors about talking about monetization, and they're getting pressure to monetize because basically, they're streaming tracks online for free and not paying any royalties for it. And any sort of payments like SoundCloud pays or Pandora, none of that. So they're getting pressure to monetize and make a way to pay for the usage of the music on their site. And so this is a clear step in we're not going to be about creators anymore. We're going to try and make ourselves into a streaming service. If you download the new app, I mean, it is like a streaming service. I'm like, I don't use this for a streaming service.
Right.
And it was built off creators, and all the money they make now is from people upgrading to pro accounts, which are creators getting pro accounts. The listeners aren't paying anything. So for them to do this really angered me.
And if it's not for the creators, then my attitude is the world doesn't need another streaming site.
Exactly.
I certainly don't. So.
No, exactly. They don't have anything to offer that I mean, they have a lot less to offer than what Spotify can offer. They did respond. I mean, they got hammered in their blog. I mean, hammered in the comments section when they announced the new app. And they responded basically saying, hey, we had to choose something to roll out first, and we want to fix some features and make them better. And the only thing they said that would be coming would be better playlisting options. I'm like, I don't care about playlists. I used it to record ideas and rehearsals and to post to SoundCloud to share them easily. And so now I'm not using SoundCloud anymore. And it's not like me pouting and crossing my arms going, I'm not using them anymore, and then a week later I'm using them. It's like, that's the only reason I use SoundCloud. If they're going to
preventing
you
from using
it. So anyway, that happened. I'd be curious to hear if any other artists had feedback on that. But let's move on. Google has acquired music streaming service Songza after weeks of speculation around a potential buyout. Songza uses information about the user and context to determine the best playlist for you at any given time, all of which are curated by music experts, DJs and Rolling Stone writers, and etc. Very few services look to human curation to enhance the music experience. Pandora, Spotify, and other big players rely heavily on algorithms, making this one of the key selling points of the service. Plus, Songza has tons of data around what people like to listen to based on time of day, the weather, location, and activity, which can be immensely valuable to a company like Google, who is looking to seamlessly integrate technology into every corner of your life. According to Google, Songza will remain intact for users, and nothing will change about the service for now, though Songza expertise will be applied to other products like Google Play Music and YouTube. So it's just interesting development that Google bought that streaming service up. Do you guys use Songza at all?
I don't. No.
There's somebody here at CD Baby really liked it. I've used it before, and it's kind of cool the way it does curate playlists. It's probably more on the lines of playlist curation, like what Beats Music is trying to do.
I wonder if they paid $3 billion for it.
No, apparently they didn't say, but the rumors online were more that it was in the lines of like $15 million, because they don't have a huge audience, but it's more they're more buying it for the technology. So
Right.
it's like the technology in the database is more valuable. If they wanted to build a streaming service, well, they already have Google Play, or Google Play Music All Access, whatever it's called.
And that other streaming service, YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, the streaming wars are heating up. Finally, the last item of news: Music Vault opens the vault on YouTube. Music Vault, a repository of live music performances, is unlocking 12,000 concert videos on YouTube, including performances by such classic acts as Bob Dylan, The Grateful Dead, James Brown, and Bruce Springsteen. Music Vault spent the last 2 years restoring and remastering thousands of tapes from its archives. The YouTube channel, which launched in April, now boasts some 2,000 hours worth of live concert footage, including Carlos Santana's 1970 performance of Evil Ways at Tanglewood and a full concert video of Stevie Ray Vaughan from 1985. So, pretty cool. Lots of classic concert footage now available on YouTube.
Is it all footage, or is there some things where they just had the audio and they're uploading it?
This is all concert videos from what
All videos.
I've read, and so I haven't had a chance to go check out all 12,000 videos, but I'm assuming it's all concert footage. I was looking at Music Vault's website, and it seemed like it was all videos. So there's some good classic concert videos on there. I'm a big fan of concert footage, so
I'm always impressed when, popular bands have just tons of footage that you've never seen before. Because my assumption is, it takes a lot to film a show or a series of shows and edit the audio and all that stuff. Like, surely they would have made a concert video already, but I guess not.
Well, and also some of this stuff is, back in the day of tape, where it might not have been the greatest quality, but with digital tools and remastering, they can actually make it so it's easier to mass duplicate, or to put in a digital file that has audio quality. So I don't know. There's the intern stuck a box of tapes in the wrong spot, and for 25 years, nobody could find those. Well, I don't have any more about the news, so why don't we get into the discussion? So we had a blog article that was getting a lot of comments this past week. Mixed comments. Some people hated it. Some people thought it was great. And Chris, you were moderating most of those comments, and so I thought it'd be interesting to discuss on the podcast. So why don't you set the stage for us with the premise of the article, and then you can lay out, kind of some of the artist feedback, and we can discuss from there.
And who wrote it?
A guy named Brandon Seymour wrote it, and he's essentially a music hobbyist. It sounds like from his 15 years of playing music, he's had sort of semi-pro phases and some hobby phases, but he's also got really into music marketing. And when he was thinking about marketing, he decided that image is everything. So he wrote this article for us called "Your Image is More Important Than Your Music, Especially If You're an Indie Artist," which, it's a pretty controversial title, so it sparked some heated comments. But I thought I'd start off with one of the quotes from it, just to kind of give you where he's coming from. He says, "The music industry, and I use that term very loosely, isn't concerned with art or expression. It's not about identity or originality, and it's definitely not about talent. It's about money. I'm not saying that you won't ever be appreciated as an artist. I'm also not saying that being an artistic genius precludes you from mainstream success. I'm saying that the music industry as a whole doesn't care who you are unless they can profit from what you have to offer, regardless of how amazing or awful you actually are. It's not evil, it's just business. As with any other business, even the greatest products can't sell themselves. The image or brand perception is what makes people want to buy." So,
yeah, that's a strong quote.
it is.
I I believe in it completely.
Many folks did not. I thought it sounded very, logical to me. And he basically was sort of telling this anecdotally about his own experience. And he said, once I realized that, I put a new band together, and we concentrated on our image first. In fact, they didn't even have any original songs for their first 5 shows. And he said within a few months they'd gotten a ton of good press. They were opening for national acts. They were headlining festivals. They were playing 5 times a month, and some publications named them the best band in South Florida. So he didn't have this monstrous national success, but locally, just focusing on the image did wonders for them.
Is that a hard list to get on, best band?
I don't know.
I'm just kidding, all you musicians in South
with
Florida.
Miami, right? Gotta be. But he also said, in his own words, "We're not especially talented or good looking. We're just concerned with image." So, I thought it was a great, like I said, an anecdotal story of this idea. We were focused on this other thing besides just the music, and it did, it was very helpful to our success.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Before we start giving our weighing in with our comments or feedback or thoughts on the issue, why don't you go ahead and hit a couple of the comments by artists, just so people can kind of understand
what the controversy was.
I'm sure some people already got so angry with us in this podcast that they probably turned it off because of what you just said. So.
Yeah, okay, so some of the detractors, there was sort of 2 camps about what people were pissed off about. And the first criticism was maybe the obvious one. People were saying it should be about the music. So this guy Ezra Weiss wrote in and he says, "This is drivel. This is drivel," all in caps. "Image is not more important than music. Let your music speak for you. Be human. Be multifaceted. Be honest. Have high expectations of your listeners. Let that expectation raise the quality of your music." Blah, blah, blah. He goes on. And then remember why you started all this in the first place. A guy named Sam the Human said, "Truly great music has nothing to do with image. Let me ask you this. How many people talk about the level of brand awareness Miles Davis of the Beatles had? Answer, they don't."
I would greatly argue with that.
Me too. I was going to hold my rebuttal until this last comment.
Okay, yeah.
So then Busta Speaker says, you have very succinctly pointed out one of the main reasons why contemporary music, for the most part, sucks beyond belief. Serve the song, first, last, always. Truly great tunes will always outlive an image. What is still keeping Elvis's catalog more than viable? VHS copies of A Morbidly Obese Shadow of his comeback tour, or the music itself? If his tunes sucked, no one would know or care who he was. Okay, so now that I said that, I agree. If his tune sucked, no one would care 50 years later. But his image is what made people care.
His image is huge. I mean, people are more familiar with what Elvis looks like than what he sounds like.
Right. You remember the guitar and the hips gyrating and his hair and.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with that I would say out of the gate is that yes, the music. If you're an artist and you're making music, yes, the music is the most important thing for you personally. The point of the article was more about when you go out and market yourself and you're trying to get people to pay attention to what you're doing, that the image is really key in communicating who you are. And I think that's the point artists were missing. Why don't you? There's another main point people were criticizing on, but or was that it?
No. There was, like I said, there's 2 main criticisms. The other one was that he didn't offer any specific advice about how to even think about your image or how to form an image. So like I was saying, he meant it more just anecdotally. Like I thought about image and it was successful, and then I kind of, in his defense, was wondering how you would give specific advice about image to a general audience. It's the CD Baby audience is huge. It's like 700 genres. People have all different levels of ambition. So Maybe I'm defending him before I've read the comments, but
Now I think that I really agreed with that initial quote that you read with him, but I feel like pushing image to the center of the discussion is can be misleading. It could cause artists to actually go in the wrong direction with their career, and that's what I think is kind of dangerous about focusing on image, because I think that image should come from within. It should come from that same place that your music is coming from, that sort of creative center, and it doesn't need to happen all at once. I think a lot of artists, what the reason why they're reacting the way they are is because they think image is being, a 22-year-old pop star in a miniskirt or whatever. Like, I think that image is something that comes from your life experience. It's something that comes from your personality. It comes from your experience of playing, 100 or 200 or shows or whatever. Like, though, it's something that emerges, and it's not something you can always turn on. It is something you can pay attention to, and facilitate and grow, and it'll probably help you get shows and help you succeed. But it's not something that you can just like, oh, let's go get costumes at the costume store and then we'll have a new image,
Yeah. It reminds me of, if we remember Lisa Lapine, our interview with her, like back in, was it episode 2 or something of this podcast? She said something about persona, which I think is pretty closely linked to image. She said, your persona shouldn't be a lie or dishonest. It should be just kind of like a slightly dramatic emphasis of some aspect of yourself that you want to communicate. You're just kind of blowing it up for people.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what's not an image. A picture of you standing on stage in short pants.
It's not an image that you're ever going to get out of your mind.
Unless you're into trop rock. I feel like trop rockers.
Well, there's some exceptions. Some of the heavy metal crowd, they wear the low hanging shorts and it works. But I don't want to get into too specifics like that. But something that you said, Bolt, was talking about. It's not a 22-year-old in a miniskirt. I think some of the detractors of the concept were people that were assuming that it's Katy Perry in a Pepsi commercial and all this slick look and feel to everything. And that's not it at all. I think what I take away from this story is a couple things. One is the main thing that no matter how artistic you want to be, people are making visual choices about everything. You do it all the time. When you go to the grocery store, you're choosing things based on what the package looks, not what the food tastes like. Unless you've had it before. But there's certain indicators that visually that product is making that, hey, this is more of what you were looking for. This fits your lifestyle. This fits you culturally. And those are all visual cues that help you make those decisions. This one's going to taste better because it looks like they gave a crap to make a nice label, as opposed to this one, the packaging looks kind of crappy. I might get food poisoning from it. And so you're making those decisions based on visual cues. And in this particular case, this band, the music, I have not heard the music. I probably wouldn't have liked the band, but it's an interesting experiment in the fact that the people that are in charge of booking clubs, booking festivals, the media, they have visual cues they're cueing off of as well, not just the music. If they've got two bands that come and land on their desk and they can review one of them, chances are the thing, and they like each album equally, one of the things that's going to tip help the one band win out is the one that has, some better photographs, some better looking, packaging. And that's just how it is. So that's one thing I would say. Now, the other thing I'd say is I don't think that you have to be so obsessed with that you forget about the music, but it's so, artistic types typically aren't as concerned with those things, and it can be a detriment to your career because whether you like it or not, music fans aren't necessarily the artsy type that throw everything aside and go, no, it's just about the music. It's not just about the music to them. It's about being a part of a group. And that's the other thing I would say. An image isn't necessarily about how fancy my photos look or how expensive my outfit. They're visual cues that let me know that I'm a part of a particular genre or group, or that culturally, that if I'm somebody that likes, death metal, and you're in wearing skinny blue jeans, cowboy boots, and a cowboy hat and a Western shirt, I'm probably going to make some judgments visually that, oh, these guys aren't what I'm looking for, or whatever. And it goes with all genres, if a jazz player, someone sees a jazz album and it's somebody wearing black leather and chains, they're going to think that's not a jazz album. I mean, you can be upset at me for saying that, but it's just how it is.
Well, and the issue is there's too much music out there now to not be concerned with making those kinds of impressions, because no one's going to give you another second, past that first judgment saying, I don't need that, let me find the thing I do need. And your music could be perfect for that person, but you didn't win them over visually in that first 1 or 2 seconds that they're exposed to your image, whatever.
And by no means do you have to do these things. You could be the death metal band lead singer that wears Wranglers, cowboy boots, Western shirt, and a cowboy hat, and it might work for you. But if when you're going out and trying to present your music to the industry at large, to get connections, to get gigs, to get press coverage, those things do matter, and people make judgments based on those things because they're trying to assign some sort of information to where you belong, and if things don't match up, or if it looks there's not a certain level of professionalism, like crappy pixelated photos of you look like you just rolled out of bed for the photo, or just came from,
which might work in some genres.
Yeah, which might work, or it's just I've seen so many artists that's like, seriously, you sent me that photo? Really? You want me to listen to your music and you send me that?
I don't know why I keep on thinking of this, but when I was about 20, I went to go see this pop punk band who I'd been listening to a lot, Berkeley pop punk band. I can't remember the name right now, but they were different than other bands because they had very positive message. But they weren't all, I don't know, sort of cynical punk rock, stereotypical band. What really surprised me is when the band took the stage, the lead singer was barefoot and he had long hair and just sort of like a hippie loose outfit on. And when they first came on stage, I thought that was like the sound guy or something. I was like, who is this hippie guy? Like, this is not how punk rockers dress. Like, I was, at 20 years old or whatever, I was dressed like a punk rocker, and I was going to go see a punk rock show, and I was like, why is this guy dressed like a hippie, But it really made me think, and it really also made me sort of appreciate. I saw now, I was like, oh, the reason why this band sounds different and has a different attitude is because this guy has a different philosophy than a lot of punk rock bands do. So I was like, oh, like this is it, in a way it was sort of visually genre defying, and it was interesting to me and made me sort of respect them a little bit more, because I was like, oh, this guy is just being himself. Like, he's kind of a hippie, and he's not going to dress like a punk rocker just because he likes punk rock music. He also likes hippie music or whatever, It just sort of made the band image more complex and interesting.
Right, yeah. And I don't think the article was, it didn't make any prescription, so it certainly wasn't saying you have to fit your image to something else. I think it was just simply saying, think about your image, make very conscious decisions about those sort of things. And like you said, like genre defying can be, open up way more opportunities than if you look like every other band in your genre. But just think about it.
Yeah, I mean, artists tend to get upset when you say something is more important than music, and the image, I would say, is not more important than the music. I think it's all a part of telling your story. That's, to me, what's the important thing, is that you may have great music, but today you have to tell a complete story. And that's how it's always been. To say the Beatles didn't think about their image is just ludicrous.
Well, yeah, they had Brian Epstein, thinking about their hair and their suits and their...
Yeah, everything was exactly calculated for those guys. Don't fool yourself into think they were just pure geniuses that they just walked in a room and it all happened without anyone thinking about it or having some sort of strategy. But they were geniuses. But it didn't just happen out of the air. It was calculated. But anyway, so it is about the music. I think it's a matter of when artists always are frustrated about how do I get more gigs? How do I do this? And these are the things where that really matters in building a fan base and a following and how you tell your story and you communicate that story. It has a look, it has a feel, it has, and it's just ways that, things to consider as you, write, record, and release music and try to advance your career.
Something I also wanted to mention, just because I feel like this article I read recently sort of ties into it. I think that if your motivations are to are simply to be successful and popular, you're not going to be you're not going to actually find as much success as if your motivations are more about doing something you love and having and achieving things for yourself. This article I read was about intrinsic versus extrinsic goals and how they tested all these people in the military at West Point Academy, and they found that the soldiers who were attempting the program in order to have exterior benefits like money, wealth, family, like achieve certain goals outside of their self, they were much more likely to fail than those who were going because they liked the lifestyle, because they wanted to improve their inner self. So, I mean, it was a fairly small, isolated study that was related to the military. It's important for us to find success, to have interior goals, to enjoy the music, to motivate ourselves that way, that if we concentrate too much on sort of goals down the line of fame and fortune and impressing fans and that sort of stuff, we're much less likely to succeed. It doesn't hurt that we want those things, that's fine, but what should be the core motivator for the music we make in order to find success should be more internal, should be more about fulfilling our immediate desires and the joy of playing music and the joy of creating something, etc.
I agree. And you could be making great music in your pajamas at home, but I don't want to see you in your pajamas, so you better have something put together, some sort of better image for yourself.
One thing I was thinking of is, you're talking about intrinsic versus extrinsic rewards and stuff, and if you're looking more for the extrinsic rewards, probably they're harder to achieve, and it's going to be easier to get frustrated and give up sooner. But also kind of along like having a timeline view of things, it made me think of the music is like the only thing that matters once someone gets to your music. But until they get there, it doesn't matter at all, and your image is the only thing that matters. Like, there's sort of like, it doesn't have to be either or, it's just where on the timeline of someone's interaction with your image or music, are they?
Yeah. So let's wrap up with a couple of quick, what I would call action items for artists, because one, you can email us or comment on this podcast and say you're now angry at us because we said image is important, or you can weigh in with some examples. But one, I would say think about it as you're telling your complete story, and the visual aspect of what you're doing with your music is a part of that story. And think about it, does it fit? Does it all gel together? Does it give people the idea of who you are? Does it give people the right idea of the kind of music you do, or feel like you're a part of a group or culture or subculture that enjoys that type of music? On a more or practical level, I should say, make sure you have photos when you're sending them around where you look decent. they're not pixelated. They're press quality. I see so many bands send photos, like they'll send them to me, and it'd be like dudes sitting around a table in a bar at night that they took a picture with an iPhone and they're using that as their press photo. Don't do that. Those are things that make people think less of you when concerning image. But you don't have to go overboard, and it's not talking about making yourself look all slick and like you're a package that's sitting on a shelf. But it's the idea that all of these things are a way that we communicate with people. The music communicates with people, and ultimately that needs to be great. But there's other ways that you're communicating to fans, and part of that is image, so it needs to be considered.
I wonder if it would be useful to go way simple and say, what is your image comprised of? And the list I had was basically, apart from your sound and your genre, your fashion, your clothes, your haircut, your band logo, your album art, your concert posters, the look of your website, and like kind of the way you interact with your fans, the things you say in interviews, or how you talk to the media. And that was kind of a basic list.
The instruments you play as well.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah. And all those things to me are just nice points that draw off of to make your story and build an image around. So unless you guys have any final thoughts, we have some feedback and listener calls and emails that I wanted to get to.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So we've been getting some great listener calls and emails and feedback and comments on the website. We love getting those. If you want to email us, it's podcast@cdbabypodcast.com, or you can call our listener line at 360-524-2209, or leave a comment in the comment section for the episode in which you want to weigh in on. It's been great. Lots of good stuff. A lot of people out there binge listening. I know it's popular to binge watch TV shows, which I'm a big fan of, but a lot of people have been binge listening to the podcast, and it's funny because I got an email from someone that I'm going to read. He's been binge watching 60 episodes a week, and I'm like, well, we're not going to keep up that pace for you. and then somebody, he went back in time and was listening forward, and then someone else called in or emailed saying they were binge listening in reverse order. So he was going back in time. So very interesting. That'd
be an interesting progression for the music industry.
Yes. Yes. So what do you guys want first, calls or emails?
Emails. Oh. Kevin's a tiebreaker.
Rochambeau.
We're going to do, we'll start off with emails. We'll end up with the calls. All right, so this one is from Stevie Z. Basically, he sent me a link to an article, and he says this. The gist of the article is this. Pharrell's song Happy got 571,000 plays on terrestrial radio. That translates, according to the articles in Billboard, to 3.3 billion people listening to it. So how much revenue would the song have generated in radio revenue for those plays, and how much would that break down to per listener at 3.3 billion compared to how much Pandora, Spotify, etc. would have paid if 3.3 billion people had streamed it? He said, I can't find any hard data on terrestrial radio royalties. Otherwise, I'd do the math. Anyway, hope this provides some food for thought discussion. Take care, Stevie Z. You know what? I saw this, and I haven't done the math either myself, but I thought, Stevie Z, you must be a much better thinker than a lot of the people in the royalty discussion, because they have not been able to make that leap of how would it translate, and trying to make 571,000 plays on Pandora equal 571,000 plays on terrestrial radio, which you clearly state they are not, and which is the accurate way to look at it. So I don't know how much that would be. It'd be interesting for somebody to find out. I know that 3.3 billion people listening, or I know that, what is the Gangnam Style, that video was the first video to cross 1 billion views. And at some point they released a statement saying that they had made like $4 million off of that, but that's YouTube and totally different. the PROs don't like to release numbers publicly, so it's going to be hard to figure out how much that would be unless somebody says this is what was on our statement. But it is an interesting comparison to go, okay, if that's 3.3 billion, we've got an article here that says 571,000. Let me start over. If we got an article that says 571,000 plays equals 3.3 billion people listening, doing some math and figuring out, we could probably figure it out for Spotify and make a guess at Pandora. But I thought that was an interesting observation.
Well, yeah, I remember when there was it Bette Midler? There was some controversy about her Pandora plays maybe 3 months ago, and we did some sort of vague math, but essentially, if Bette Midler gets played once in a huge market that has like 1 million listeners, and you compare what she made for that one play to reach 1 million people, and then say that on Pandora she'd have to have 1 million plays to reach the same amount of listeners, she'd be making way more from Pandora. So the way I look at it is Pandora is, I don't know if you'd say generous, but comparatively generous.
Yeah, comparatively he would have made more money from Pandora. It just depends. Like I said, who knows what kind of backroom deals ASCAP or whoever the PRO is makes for those folks who are generating that much revenue. There's advances and all those kind of things that come into play. So the next email I have here is from Drew Bernard. He's one of the ones that's been binge listening. His band is called Medic, but basically I'll skip to the part in his email where he has a question. He said, I did have one question for you guys. What's the deal with email? Everyone seems so caught up in getting people's emails. Is it really that important? I never thought it was, foolishly perhaps. But also nothing ever seems to come of our emails except for unsubscribes. Just thought you might have some insight into why emails are important in the first place. And then he wrote, it's funny to feel like I'm finally reaching out and contributing to the conversation you guys have started when I didn't even know you existed a week ago. Keep up the good work, fellas. So he found us, and he whatever his job is, he has a lot of sitting around time where he can listen to stuff. And so
he hasn't overdosed yet. Maybe binging, but he's...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bolton.
I was just going to say, I've written a lot about the importance of email, especially on the Host Baby blog. I think that the reason why it's so important is because it's a direct line to your fans. It's, people consider the inbox a lot different than a social media feed. So, and especially with Facebook, like making it almost impossible to reach all of your fans, your email list is one of the most valuable things that you have as a band. And it doesn't, if you're not getting a big response from your list, you can clean it. You can add, people will unsubscribe, but it's really the most intimate form of communication besides actually like putting a personalized letter in the mailbox and sending it to one of your fans. Besides that, email is the closest you're going to get. And that's just a vital resource. I mean, I think that if you grow your email list, if you provide promotions, if you really work the list and make them feel like they're personally being talked to and appreciated, that you will get the sort of feedback that you're looking for. But I would not give up on the email list. I think that one of my number one advices for any band would be to spend more time thinking about your email list and communicating with those fans.
And also, I think it would be helpful if he hasn't already to read. There's an article on the DIY Musician blog called "Facebook Fading" by a band called the Gothard Sisters, and they spend sort of the first half of it talking about why Facebook is no longer a really viable option for marketing their music, but then the second half is really stressing why email is important. And so some of those answers too are in that article.
Yeah, and the three of us all work in marketing here at CD Baby, and all the reading and stuff we do about marketing that would probably bore a lot of you is because it's kind of boring to us too, but we have to do it because it's our jobs. But email is by far the way you get people to take action. Social is just a casual thing. You can get people to take action, and you can be really good. You can be an amazing person on Twitter, If Facebook actually shows your post to people, you might be good on Facebook too. But the email is the way you get results. So, and it's by far the best marketing communication out there available for folks, like digitally without, spending tons of money. Like the Bolt said, if your emails aren't getting any sort of reaction, you might want to take a look at what you're sending. And that could be a whole nother episode that we discuss all together. So, but thanks for the emails. We've got a couple calls we need to get to. So here we go.
Hey guys, I've learned a lot from your podcast. Just want to say thanks. I was wondering if you might do an episode covering managing merchandise and CD sales through your website with all that comes along with that, shipping, pricing, all those things. My band, Brian Vickers Band, just released our first album, and now I'm trying to work out all the details of how to do it myself as far as operating an online store. So I'm wondering if you've covered that in the past or if it's something you might be able to cover. I would love to learn more about that. I can be contacted through brianvickersband.com. Thank you.
Yeah, Brian, the one thing I'd say is, selling direct to fan off your own website. If you're going to sell CDs, can be a pain. If it's not something where you're getting a ton of orders and can get it down to a science, I would say just get your CD for sale on cdbaby.com and send your fans to us to do all that for you. I know a lot of a lot of artists have burned relationships with their fans by getting overwhelmed or being out on the road and not fulfilling orders in a timely manner. And, our fans are used to getting stuff from Amazon and places like that where they have customer service. They get, if there's an issue, they get a response. It gets mailed out immediately. And that's what we do here at CD Baby too. So if you are going to do it yourself, there was an interview we did years ago with an artist named David Nevue, and he's a solo piano player, and he is somebody who sells a ton of music directly from his website. So you might want to check out that episode. He has turned it into a total science, and he gets enough volume that he's worked out all this stuff, and it really works for him. So you might check out that episode of the podcast. Just search David Nevue and the podcast name, and it'll come right up.
I mean, if you're not, honestly, I don't have the numbers in my head right now, but if you're not going to doing at least 5 to 10 orders a week, then you're going to be losing money just on like gas and time and packaging alone.
Yeah. So that's something to consider. And the number one thing that I personally always stress to artists is if you're busy and you're out on the road, the last thing you want to do is make your fans angry by not fulfilling orders in a timely manner, and it becomes a hassle.
What would you suggest for, like, if he's talking about merch as a kind of global thing? Was he talking about T-shirts and posters and
that might have been the thing. He didn't really specify. He mentioned CDs, but he also used the word merch. So we don't do merch fulfillment here. So that you would have to do yourself. But if you're just thinking, I'm going to sell my CDs and I'm going to do all the shipping, unless you're doing volume, I say just give it to us. Anyway, we got one more call.
Hi guys, this is Dan Patrick Fulton. I'm a singer-songwriter in the LA area. I started listening to the podcast a month or two ago, and I've just been burning through the episodes at work, telling my friends how amazing it is. Anyway, I wanted to call and say thanks for all the advice you guys put together. I'm in the middle of an Indiegogo campaign, and it's been really helpful to have your show. One thing that's been huge for me as far as gaining early momentum was kind of taking the time to prep the campaign ahead of time. I'm not always the most patient person, and I was originally going to pull the trigger about a month ago, but I decided to wait, and I'm glad I did. I think it gave me time to build a better campaign. So what I did was actually I put some of my own money into recording 2 songs up front so people could kind of hear what they were going to get. Everything I've done up to this point has been kind of a bedroom demo or maybe a little better. And I don't know, I thought it would be important to show people that they're getting a professional product. Also, ahead of time, I was able to kind of recruit friends and close family to get on board right away, so we have momentum in the first week. I was also kind of inspired by the interview with Benji from Pledge Music, and even though we're using Indiegogo, we're doing the flexible funding, so all the PayPal money comes through right away, and so we're actually going to be working on the record as we're like kind of doing the funding, which I'm pretty excited about. So Anyway, as of right now, I'm about 40% of my goal, and trying to keep the momentum going. People can check it out if they go to Indiegogo and search Dan Patrick Fulton, or through my website at danpatrickfulton.com. Thanks again for putting together a great podcast. I'm totally hooked on it. Take care, guys. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Dan. I thought that was interesting. I haven't talked to anybody who's used Indiegogo before, but it was a good idea that he's starting a fan funding campaign, and like he mentioned, a lot of his recordings to that point had been more like bedroom recordings, and trying to get people to understand that what they are going to be contributing to is going to be a totally different level, taking the time to go record a couple songs and have some better songs, better professionally recorded songs to kind of showcase what the project is going to be like. I thought that was a good idea and probably a better way to prime the pump of a fan-funded campaign.
Yeah, I was thinking as a lesson from that, even beyond crowdfunding, is just have a little bit of patience. Like I know so often, like we create a new song, we want to record it right away. Then when it's recorded, we want to put it out right away. Like when you're releasing an album or you're planning a tour, you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, if you could just wait a month or two and think it through, make sure you get everything, all lined up, then patience is usually something that artists don't have. So I think that's a great lesson from that.
Indeed. Yeah, so that's the listener feedback and calls, and we love getting your calls and emails and seeing your comments on the website. So if you'd like to call us and weigh in on the podcast, our listener line is 360-524-2209. You can email us at podcast@cdbabypodcast.com or leave a comment in the show notes at cdbabypodcast.com. And Dan actually sent us a track from his new album that he said, hey, if you guys want to use on the podcast, feel free. And since we played his phone call, I figured we'd end the show with his song.
All right.
Sweet.
And he shared a song called Summer with us. I thought it was a nice sounding song, and we're going to end the show on that. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Peace.
The hem of her dress swings wide and wide, calls to me like a field calls to a child, with such promises. Those twirling layers swing and sway, beckon to me like a voice from far away. Oh, come, she says. Summer whispers in my ear, but am I ready now to hear? I find myself in warming winds. The sunlight in a heart shines from within and sets all aglow. The season's feeling grows again. I remember feeling just like this back then, so long ago. Soft reflections in her eyes, like embers as the fire dies. Summer whispers to me, calls me out from what I know. Do I dare go? Summer spirit moves me, sends me spinning like a wheel, so unreal. It settles down, the night is dark but filled with sound and sweet still air. And Still she lingers and surrounds, but if I reach out for her now, will she be there? Summer whispers to me, calls me out from what I know. Do I dare go? Summer spirit moves me, sends me spinning like a wheel. So unreal. Summer whispers to me, calls me out from what I know. Do I dare go? Summer spirit moves me, sends me spinning like a wheel. So unreal.
You've been listening to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, USA.